right, so this evening's chapters come from a new book. It is called More Lessons Learned from Research, Volume 2. It is still a National Council of Teachers of Mathematics publication, and I chose to read chapters 5 and 6 from the first section. This first section is organized into the critical issue of equity in the classroom. So it's everything is about mathematics reforms and promotion of open and equitable mathematics environments. So I had a hard time choosing, but in the end, I did go with chapters 5 and 6. Chapter 5 is titled Building Young Children's Mathematics, and I see such a issue in lower grades in the conceptual understanding in mathematics. We want to focus on skill and drill, and so I said, let me read this and kind of see what's going on here. And essentially, the authors decided they built a curriculum, the building blocks curriculum, and this chapter kind of summarizes what they found in implementing this curriculum. So first they begin by telling us why we need this curriculum, and the reasons is that your children from low income families and even those from certain racial and ethnic groups or English language learners show special or specific difficulties in early mathematics. And so they say there's this disconnect in our children who are coming from more affluent communities, that there's a disconnect there in lower level math. And then they're bringing these disconnects into kindergarten, and so the teachers they're not bridging those gaps. They don't have the resources to, or the curriculum to. And so essentially they built this curriculum. Within the curriculum, they're focusing more on comprehension. They're focusing on actually building the concepts, representing shapes, composing shapes, building patterns and things like that. Within this, we're talking even like preschool age kids. And then they don't just say, okay, here's a curriculum. They actually support teachers in that. And so what was the most interesting there was that the more teachers use the building blocks curriculum, the more their children learned. And then children learn more in classrooms with a positive classroom culture. And so that means that your teachers were knowledgeable and enthusiastic about the mathematics, and they frequently interacted with students. And then the more separate mathematics activities that a teacher conducted, the more the children learned. So they found that early mathematics is very important, especially to children from the low resource communities and the underrepresented children. And so if they can build this curriculum like they did with this building blocks curriculum, and then provide the support for teachers, we can help to bridge those gaps. Now, chapter 6 was a little more interesting to me. I really enjoyed this chapter. It was a letter to those who dare teach mathematics for social justice. And I just thought it was really interesting. So it was from a teacher, he's a writer, and he's got some actual specific ways that he taught math for social justice. I'm sorry for all the ums. It's homecoming week, and it's just, my brain is struggling. So he goes to tell us how he actually taught math for social justice in his classroom. He gives us an example of real world projects and things like that. I loved these real world projects. I made notes. I'll give you an example of one. He said, how would you use, he gives this to a 7th grade class. He says, how would you use mathematics to help answer whether racism has anything to do with house prices in he gives us a pseudonym, but some suburb, right? He says, you need to be detailed and specific. And so he describes what math would you use? How would you use the math? What data would you collect? Give examples of data that would cause you to believe that racism is involved, and then give examples that would cause you to believe that it's not involved. And what he did is he didn't just take those and say, okay, here you go, run with it. A week later, he assigned the second part where he reproduced the students' various responses in a summary form. And then he asked the students to pick 2 of the responses, and then then they got to go with it, go run with it. And so at the end, he said they came up with so many different things. He says, some students said if the same houses were higher priced in neighborhoods of color, then racism existed. But then some students said the opposite. They said if the same houses were higher priced in white communities, then that was racism, because the realtors knew that the people of color couldn't afford them, and so they were keeping them. So it was so interesting that he saw all these different viewpoints and allowed the students to create their own data and go their own way. I'm wrapping up. I know I'm getting close. I really liked this chapter. So he said that they reached this conclusion on their own. But here's what really resonated with me. I'm going to just summarize this straight from Jami. He went on to the end to say, you can't just start by doing these math real world problems for social injustice with just any class. What it has to start with is a relationship with these students, and not just a relationship like, oh, I'm a caring adult you can always come talk to, but a social and political relationship with these students where they know that you are there for them socially and politically. And so that was something I had really never heard of before, and never really explored or kind of reflected for myself. That contribution to teaching mathematics for social justice. So, sorry I went over. Hope you enjoyed it.